Hi there. Welcome to Indiana History on Scripps TV, the only show where I look like I'm about to testify against my own crime syndicate. Today, we're here to talk about the Reno Gang, Indiana's first original crime family. They were like the Wild West version of your shady cousin who knew a guy. All right, now let's get the pointer and go to the map.
They hit up places like Seymour, New Albany, and Marshfield.
That's right, Marshville, Indiana, a place so obscure I had to double check to make sure it still exists, and I live here. I love this story not just because of the gang, but because of the vigilante group that handled the gang. Indiana had the Red Hood gang from DC Comics in real life before they were written. Alright, enough out of me, let's get to the story.
The fate of the Reno brothers, a night of blood in Indiana. The night of December 12, 1868, was no ordinary night in Indiana. It was a night of reckoning, a night of vengeance, a night of blood. The Reno brothers Frank, William, and Simeon, along with their accomplice Charlie Anderson, found themselves at the mercy of a justice system that had failed its people. But justice would be delivered that night not by the law, but by the masked men of the Scarlet Mask Society, a vigilante force that had had enough. The rise of the Reno Gang. The Reno brothers were not mere criminals. They were pioneers of crime. Frank Reno, the cold and calculating leader, orchestrated elaborate heists, train robberies, and extortion schemes with ruthless efficiency. His younger brothers, William and Simeon, followed suit. William, reckless and impulsive, and Simeon, quieter but no less guilty. They weren't just outlaws. They were the architects of modern train robbery, setting a precedent for criminals to come. Their claim to infamy came in May 1868, when they executed the first recorded train robbery in U.S. history in Marshfield, Indiana. A staggering $97,000 was stolen, a sum that could set a man up for life. But for the Reno Gang, it was just the beginning. They bribed officials, manipulated the legal system, and eliminated anyone who dared to testify against them. The people of Indiana were afraid, and worse, they were angry. The breaking point. The citizens of Seymour, Indiana, had seen enough. Time and again, the Reno Gang was arrested, only to be released on bail, resuming their criminal spree without consequence. The law had proven weak, corrupted, or perhaps both. In 1867, John Reno, another brother, was arrested, but instead of facing swift justice, he was extradited to Missouri and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Too little, too late. Frank and the others continued their lawless rampage, robbing trains and eluding capture. Public fury reached a boiling point after the May 22, 1868 heist. The people wanted justice, and if the law would not deliver it, they would take matters into their own hands. The capture. By the fall of 1868, the Reno Gang's luck ran out. The famed Pinkerton detectives, relentless in their pursuit, finally apprehended Frank, William, Simeon, and their cohort, Charlie Anderson. They were imprisoned in Floyd County Jail in New Albany, Indiana. The town held its breath. Would this be the end of the Reno brothers? Or would they, once again, slip through the cracks of the law? Many feared the latter. Corrupt officials had freed them before. The people of Seymour weren't willing to take that risk. The Scarlet Mask Society and the Night of Blood. Enter the Scarlet Mask Society, a secretive and fearless group of vigilantes formed in Jackson County, Indiana. These men were farmers, business owners, and citizens who had been pushed to their limit. They were bound together by one mission: to deliver the justice that the law would not. On the fateful night of December 12, 1868, around 50 masked men rode silently into New Albany. Their destination, Floyd County Jail. Their intent, clear and absolute. The sheriff was helpless against them. He was forced to hand over the keys. The vigilantes moved with precision, unlocking the cells where the Reno brothers and Charlie Anderson awaited their fate. There was no gunfire, no grand escape attempt, only a quiet resignation. They had evaded justice for years, but on this night, they would not. One by one, the condemned men were led out to the waiting nooses. Reports say they did not struggle. Perhaps they knew this was inevitable. Frank Reno, the ever-defiant leader, allegedly spat curses at his executioners, unrepentant to the very end. If any of them spoke words of remorse, history has not recorded them. The ropes tightened. The bodies fell. Justice, in its most brutal form, had been served. The aftermath. By dawn, the Reno brothers and Charlie Anderson hung lifeless, a grim warning to all who would follow in their footsteps. The Scarlet Mask Society had delivered their verdict, and then, like ghosts, they vanished into the night. No arrests were made, no charges were filed, no names were revealed. The law had failed, but the people had not. The Reno Gang story has since been romanticized, turned into legend. Some see them as tragic figures, rebels who fought the system and lost. But the truth is much simpler. They were criminals who met the only justice the frontier could offer. Their deaths marked the end of an era where outlaws could buy their way out of trouble. Indiana would never forget the Reno brothers, nor the night that sealed their fate. The night of blood was not just vengeance. It was the final stand of a people who refused to be terrorized. And in the darkened streets of New Albany, the ghosts of that night still linger, whispering the tale of the Reno brothers and the justice that came for them in the end.
The Reno brothers probably wished that these bars would have kept them a lot more safe, but swift justice came and they were dead before dawn. Thanks for coming and watching Indiana History.